Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam UTM Sanjungan Bangsa. In today's presentation, we will be exploring Malaysia's role at the international level. My name is Dr. Akmaliza Abdullah and I will guide you through Malaysia's foreign policy, its participation in global organizations, and its contributions on the international stage. Let's take a look at the topics we'll be covering today. First, we will discuss Malaysia's foreign policy, followed by its role and recognition in various international organizations, including the United Nations, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation or OIC, the Developing Eight Countries D8, Asian, and the Non-Aligned Movement or NAM. Malaysia's foreign policy is independent, principled, and pragmatic. It emphasizes peace, humanity, justice, and equality. The core thrust of the policy is to safeguard Malaysia's sovereignty and national interest while contributing to a just and equitable global community. Malaysia engages diplomatically with other nations to promote its national interest and support multilateralism in international diplomacy. Malaysia's foreign policy is founded on a few key principles. It is independent, not aligned with any major power bloc. All nation states, regardless of size, are equal under international law. Malaysia conducts its international relations in a pragmatic manner, always prioritizing its national interest. Recently, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim emphasized the importance of maintaining strong ties with major partners like China, the United States, Europe, and Asia. In his maiden press conference, Anwar highlighted the importance of China and called for enhanced bilateral relations with this regional power. At the same time, Anwar also did not leave out other key partners such as the United States, Europe, India, as well as ASEAN, and emphasized that relations with these countries are equally crucial. Such statements are most likely deliberate, as Anwar has signaled to his foreign partners Malaysia's stance on foreign policy that he will not upset the status quo. As a committed member of the United Nations, Malaysia supports multilateralism in efforts to advance global peace, security, and prosperity. Malaysia has an impressive record in peacekeeping operations and actively participates in international discussions aimed at solving global issues. Malaysia's approach emphasizes engagement and cooperation rather than isolationism. Malaysia, as a predominantly Muslim nation, plays a significant role in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation (OIC), the second largest intergovernmental organization after the UN. The OIC works to safeguard the interests of the Muslim world and promotes peace and harmony internationally. Malaysia values the solidarity of the Muslim community and contributes to OIC efforts in various areas such as science, economy, trade, and education. These are the OIC's key bodies: the Islamic Summit, the Council of Foreign Ministers, the General Secretariat, the Al-Quds Committee, and three permanent committees concerned with science and technology, as economy and trade, and information and culture. There are also specialized organs under the banner of the OIC, including the Islamic Development Bank and the Islamic Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. ASEAN remains the cornerstone of Malaysia's foreign policy. Malaysia has been instrumental in the establishment of the ASEAN community, which has significantly enhanced its engagement at the regional level. Strengthening bilateral and multilateral relations within ASEAN and beyond is a critical component of Malaysia's diplomatic efforts. What is meant by bilateral? Bilateral refers to interactions or agreements between two parties. In the context of international relations, it specifically involves two countries. Examples of bilateral interactions include trade agreements, diplomatic negotiations, and cooperation between two nations. These agreements are often customized to address the specific needs and interests of the involved countries. For instance, a bilateral trade agreement might be established between country A and country B, allowing them to exchange goods and services under mutually agreed terms. Multilateral, on the other hand, pertains to interactions or agreement involving three or more parties. In international relations, it typically involves multiple countries. Multilateral cooperation occurs within intergovernmental organizations such as the United Nations or through broader global initiatives. Examples include climate change negotiations, human rights conventions, and global trade frameworks. Unlike bilateral agreements, multilateral ones aim to promote global cooperation, address common challenges, and create a framework that benefits all participating nations. In summary, bilateral involves two parties, usually two countries, whereas multilateral involves three or more parties, often multiple countries working together. Malaysia has been a key member of the Non-Alignment Movement or NAM since its inception in 1961. NAM promotes the interests of developing nations and encourages these countries to remain independent and unaligned with any superpowers. The movement remains relevant today as it advocates for nuclear disarmament, peacekeeping, and international cooperation. The non-alignment movement has its origin from what has been referred to as the first large-scale Asian-African or Afro-Asian conference held on the 18th to 24th April 1955. It is popularly known as the Bandung Conference, taking on the name of the city where it was held, that is Bandung, Indonesia. The conference was attended by delegations from 29 governments, mostly from Asia, owing to the fact that most of present-day African states were still under colonial control. The non-aligned movement emerged in the context of the wave of decolonization that followed World War II. At the 1955 Bandung Conference, the attendees, many of whose countries has recently gained their independence, called for abstention from the use of arrangements of collective defense to serve the particular interests of any of the big powers. In the context of the Cold War, they argued countries of the developing world should abstain from allying with either of the two superpowers, the United States and the USSR, and should instead join together in support of national self-determination against all forms of colonialism and imperialism. The non-aligned movement was founded and held its first conference, the Belgrade Conference, in 1961 under the leadership of Josip Broz Tito of Yugoslavia, Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt, Jawaharlal Nehru of India, Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, and Sukarno of Indonesia. As a condition for membership, the states of the non-aligned movement cannot be part of a multilateral military alliance such as the North Atlantic Treaty Organization or NATO, or have signed a bilateral military agreement with one of the big powers if it was deliberately concluded in the context of great power conflicts. However, the idea of non-alignment does not signify that a state ought to remain passive or even neutral in international politics. On the contrary, from the founding of the non-alignment movement, its stated aims has been to give a voice to developing countries and to encourage their concerted actions in world affairs. Unlike the United Nations or the Organization of American States, the non-aligned movement has no formal constitution or permanent secretariat. All members of the non-aligned movement have equal weight within its organization. The movement's positions are reached by consensus in the Summit Conference of Heads of State or Government, which usually convenes every 3 years. The administration of the organization is the responsibility of the country holding the chair, a position that rotates at every summit. The ministers of foreign affairs of the member states meet more regularly in order to discuss common challenges, notably at the opening of each regular session of the UN General Assembly. One of the challenges of the non-aligned movement in the 21st century has been to reassess its identity and purpose in the post-Cold War era. The movement has continued to advocate for international cooperation, multilateralism, and national self-determination, but it has also been increasingly vocal against the inequities of the world economic order. The D8, or Developing Aids, is an organization of Muslim-majority developing countries aimed at promoting socio-economic development. Malaysia's involvement with the D8 reflect its commitment to cooperation, peace, and development. The D8 also focuses on reducing economic disparities, promoting renewable energy, and fostering global trade. Main objective of D8 Organization for Economic Cooperation is to be socio-economic development in accordance with following principles: peace instead of war, conflict, dialogue instead of confrontation, cooperation instead of exploitation, justice instead of double standard, equality instead of discrimination, and democracy instead of oppression. These are stated in the first Summit Declaration, Istanbul, 1997. Application of the principal objectives: we commit ourselves to work together to solve the problem of economic disparity within our countries. We reaffirm our commitment to enhance cooperation in the field of energy to develop alternative and renewable energy resources. We emphasize the importance of T8 in contributing the economic development of its member countries and ensure that it promotes global trade. This are declared in the Fifth Summit Declaration, Bali 2006. In conclusion, Malaysia has established itself as a responsible and active member of the global community through its participation in international organizations such as the UN, OECD, ASEAN, and NAM. Malaysia promotes peace, cooperation, and development. Its foreign policy continues to reflect its values of moderation, inclusivity, and meaningful diplomatic engagement. With that, I thank you.